8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you, and I'm thankful that you're here with us on this Friday, October the 17th, 2025. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM on terrestrial radio. We're also streaming live on internet radio at cklu.ca. And speaking of streaming, we're streaming live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Later to be found immediately following the show on demand on those two platforms, along with x.com/Sudbury News and Sudbury.news, which is our news aggregator, aggregating all of the local news into one convenient web page so that way you can browse all of the news and not have to go searching on all of the platforms for Sudbury.com, Sudbury Star, CBC, CTV, all of the local news on one aggregator, but also you got your newsroom from the city, you got your newsroom from the province, the country, the Prime Minister's office. So you get all that as well. So you don't only get local news, you get national news as well. The only thing we have less of is international news on Sudbury.news, but oh well, there's a lot of sources for international news out there. It's definitely not Facebook because the government's policies make it impossible to share any news on Facebook, the world's largest social media platform. Well, let's just dive in with a little bit of weather this morning. We're off to a late start, and we'll be back right after that with all the latest, greatest, and more. So stay tuned. It's going to be a great show, I promise. So you're money back. As usual, Sudbury weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. Currently, it's 4 degrees. There's light rain out there. Today, we can expect a few showers ending this afternoon, then cloudy with a 30% chance of showers or drizzle, amount of 10 to 20 millimeters. The wind will be moderate, UV index low. Tonight, cloudy with a 30% chance of showers or drizzle, and a few showers beginning before the morning. And the low will be 9, so a little warmer than usual. And then rising to 12 by morning, so it'll be a warmer morning compared to the last few mornings, that is. And then Saturday coming, we got 13 degrees and showers, a few showers. And then we have rain on Sunday. I love how Environment Canada categorizes, what you're going to get in terms of precipitation, because you got Friday, they say showers. Saturday, there's a few showers. Sunday, there's rain. And then Monday, there's a 30% chance of showers, 13 degrees. Same thing on Tuesday, 7 degrees, 30% chance of showers on Wednesday and Thursday. Same thing. So a lot of precipitation in the forecast from here on in until next Thursday. That's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. Back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. All right, thanks for being here, everyone, and good morning to you. Nana, blessings, everyone, heart emoji. And Marianne, good morning from Barrie. Liked and shared as usual. And good morning to Miles. Wow, good morning to my full name. That's interesting. Good morning, Miles Shields. Thanks for being on. And Andrew, good morning to you. Suzanne, good morning. You got your Betty. Good morning. Aaron, and it looks like Nana as well. So there you go. As we have a little community on here. Good morning to you. Logic. I'm just going to say Logic because BDJ is what it looks like from here. But good morning to you. And Vin, good morning. And Maggie, good morning to you as well. From Barrie as well. Good. Well, we got a couple people in Barrie. And Hazel, prayer emoji, much needed, much appreciated. Judy, good morning. Here we go. And Larry, I've been late a lot. Yes, lately. What is going on with your computer? You have to get up earlier and get this going properly. And reset your programs. Well, thanks, Larry. I appreciate that. We have a lot of older computers and things trying to run the software. And you say, good morning, fellow Canadians. Maurice, good morning. Smiley emoji. Yeah, rain all week for sure. And Debbie, good morning to you. Pat, good morning. And got Holly, good morning to you as well. Jerome, a lot of people jumping on. Hey, you're all late. How come? I'm just kidding. I know I was late this morning. Jerome, good morning to you. Vin. Okay. Zoocosis. Interesting term. I'll have to look that up myself. I have to turn off the harp program. Well, good luck with that one. I don't think I have the switch. And Jimmy, what the heck? Good morning to you. Great to see you. And I will see you soon. That's true. And Liette, good morning from Collingwood. Great to see you on. And Miles says, my good morning was just some auto key insertion. Just put in your name. Went in. Sorry. No problem. I don't mind my full name. It's my name, right? So, and Brian, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Good morning, Sudbury Patriots. Okay, let's dive in with a little bit of local news here. You got your city council keeping all kinds of hot topics on the table. You got Councillor Bill Leduc, who wants to sue if Premier Doug Ford goes ahead with canceling speed cameras across Ontario. He wants to sue for the money we put into our speed cameras and any revenue we would have got from the speed cameras. He wants to just get from Rob Ford, even though the speed cameras aren't there for money, right? They're only there for your safety. We want to sue for the money we would have got and the money we put into the speed cameras. That's interesting. You have the pay raise they were voting on the other day. They make about $50,000 a year already. So they were looking at getting a little bit more, but they voted it down. City councilors voted down a pay raise. So just so everyone knows that. I didn't cover that on yesterday's story or yesterday's show. So the reason why is just because we were talking about all kinds of other stuff. And I failed to mention that, right? So I think that's great that they realized that, it probably wasn't going to be good optics to the community. And good morning, Diane, right? That they have a pay raise when so many people are struggling and they're not getting pay raises and inflation is going up, taxes are going up, everything's going up except for their pay. And then they see government on every level taking pay raises, and they do. People at the high end always taking pay raises because they can. And good on city council for not doing that. Now, the latest was they increased. This is a kind of an interesting thing. They they voted to increase the speeds on the road in between Chelmsford and Valcairn, right? MR 15, Municipal Road 15. So there's certain areas where they're going to increase it from 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. Like right where there, houses, and it's going to be dangerous for someone to be driving faster or whatever, people trying to get out of their driveways, or more residential areas, it's going to still stay at 60. But other than that, it's going to be 70. And then there's other problems with people taking alternate routes on side roads where their residents are complaining they're big trucks on the roads and going fast. Big trucks on the road, for one, they're going fast. Other people in their personal vehicles going fast, not as safe as it could be. So they figure if they increase the speed on MR15 to 70 instead of 60, maybe some people will take that route instead and try and not avoid it. Because once you get stuck behind one person who goes exactly the speed limit, come on, let's just talk real here. There's like a division. Mike Perron talks about his ward is divided. Half the people are like, just drive the speed limit, and the other people are like, look, you know what I mean? Like, we're trying to get where we're going. You need to create ways for us to get where we're going quickly in the city. You can't be always, holding people back. Traffic flow. Let's just say traffic flow. You need to help traffic flow because that helps the economy of the city. It just helps people get to where they need to go and back. And it just makes life easier if you help traffic flow. Now, if that includes speed limits and modifying them so that way you can get to where you're going quicker. What I'd like to ask though, they've been talking about safety so much that, putting these speed cameras, it's making our city safer because people are slowing down in the zones where the speed cameras are. Well, now let's see when they increase it, let's see how less safe MR80 is going to be. MR15, is going to be. Now that they're increasing it by 10 kilometers per hour, right? Because it's way more unsafe when you increase the speeds by 10 kilometers. We know that because the city has told us that. That's why they got the cameras. So now let's see the statistics. How many more accidents are we going to have now that the speed limit's going to be increased 10 kilometers per hour? And I'll tell you, there will not be any statistics because the cameras are not there for our safety. They never were. They're never going to be. They're there to make money. That's it. That's the bottom line. Other than that, if they were there for our safety, they'd only put them in front of school zones. That's it. The most vulnerable place where anyone would agree, even myself, that I wouldn't have a problem with them in front of schools. They would definitely make people have to drive the speed limit, or they would then be fined. And you would know every time you're coming up to a 40 kilometers school zone, there's a camera there. Because there's a camera in front of every single elementary school. I could live with that. I could. And then that wouldn't be looked at as a cash grab. But you put them on a highway, 4-lane highway. What do you think people are going to, because it is a cash grab, right? So let's see the statistics for that. I didn't realize in 2007 and before, MR15 was 80 kilometers per hour the whole way. I'd like to see the statistics on that. I'd like to see before 2007, how many accidents, injuries, fatalities were on that strip of road where it was 80, and how decreasing it to 60 since 2007. So let's take 10 years before 2007. So 1997 to 2007. And let's see 2007 to 2014, how less dangerous it became. Let's see these kind of statistics from the city. Because I'm of the mindset that 20 kilometers difference doesn't really make a difference in terms of safety. I've driven, I'm a professional driver, if you want to put it that way. I've had delivery services that I've owned. I've worked for delivery services for years. Rush delivery. And myself and a partner, we created the first ever online ordering system for restaurants back in 1999, which then spawned a delivery service that went along with it, which was the precursor to Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats, right? It was right here in Sudbury. But I was the only driver for, 4 months or so, answering the phones, driving on my cell phone before all that was illegal, eating a sandwich while I had a stick shift, driving around. Talk about dangerous. Not one accident, right? And I had to get to where I was going quick. I had 3-4 orders in my car at a time. People don't, they're not that forgiving when you get to their place with a cold pizza saying, well, there were four speed cameras. They reduced the speed all over the place. And there was a train and it's winter time, So I've learned a thing or two about driving. I knew the best gas stations to go to in town because I would have to gas up 1 or 2 times a day. And I would set my odometer. I would know exactly which gas station gave me the most per liter out of anyone. The worst gas station at the time in the city, again, we're talking early 2000s, was the Shell on Notre Dame. Not saying that it is today, so don't say, oh, I'm never going to gas up at Shell on Notre Dame because they have terrible gas. It was like that in the early 2000s. By far, they had terrible gas. Like I'm talking, I got half the kilometers per liter than from the best one. And good morning, Mike. Thanks for being on. So the best, I forget which one. Those Essos were the best, like a lot of the Essos. Second worst were the Green Monster on the Kingsway. At the time, it was the Green Monster. With the car wash there, And then Pioneer gas stations were the third worst. And you may say, oh, those are all the discount ones. Yeah, they're discount for a reason. Because they had worse gas. So everyone's going there, gassing up, thinking they're saving all kinds of money. But they weren't getting as many kilometers per liter than they would have at a really good gas station paying regular price. So I knew that. And I also know different speeds. And you can test it yourself. Go 70 for a while and then go 80 and see if you feel any less safe while you're driving. See if you wouldn't be able to stop just as easily or look in front of you and gauge the conditions of the road just as easily going 10 kilometers more than what you were going. It comes down to driving skills, awareness, which we don't teach very often. We don't teach road etiquette. We don't teach the fact in Ontario you can turn right at a red light, or what a 4-way stop means, or when you're traveling on a 4-lane highway, the slower lane is in the right-hand lane. And if you want to pass, you go on the left. Many people are like, well, I like this lane. I'm going to stay here. They just don't realize. I think there's more safety in teaching people and continually teaching them and making sure they have to review the etiquette on the road and road rules. And again, it's not just road rules. It's things like the right lane is for the slow. The left lane is to pass. If you see someone coming up on your tail and you look beside you and you're going the exact same speed as the person beside you, and you've been doing that for the last 10 kilometers, just either ease up on the gas and get in the right lane or speed up a little bit and get in front of the guy. You're going the exact same speed as the person beside you. And again, it's all about traffic flow. Yeah, but the guy behind me, I'm going the exact speed limit and he's not supposed to. Well, that's not your job. That person's then going to be frustrated trying to get around you and may do something that's going to put themselves and other people, maybe even including yourself, in danger by trying to get around you. So do the proper thing, get in the right lane, let the person pass you. And if you really love that lane so much for some reason, even when you're not supposed to be in it, just be aware if someone's traveling behind you or not. Simple things like that. Common sense, I don't know. It's in short supply these days. But yeah, more training, less on the speed cameras and the cash grab kind of stuff. And all that leads into our deep dive today on how our society is kind of backwards. It's really backwards. It's inverted, to tell you the truth. Everything's backwards. And again, just politicians telling us things and expecting us to believe it. Like the speed cameras are there for our safety. Like, give me a break. They're not. You're making money hand over fist. Almost $1 million in a year from people who are already overburdened with taxes and inflation, and there's less jobs, there's higher unemployment, and you want to now take more money from them. And, what a feeling that is too, just the emotional aspect of it, not even just the money aspect. When you get that ticket in the mail, you're going 7 over and you get a freaking whatever ticket it is. Let's say it's $50. And what's with the ticket amount and then administration fees on top of it? So, okay, you're going to get dinged $100, but then there's $30 or whatever administration fees on top of it. It's like a tax on a tax. Give me a break. What's up with that? Like, get your head on straight. Like, this stuff isn't going to last very much longer. You might as well be ahead of the curve and stop doing stuff like that and start reversing things and making our society not as inverted and backwards. And speaking of that, like, our whole society has gone down that road. It's not just locally. And there's reasons for that, right? And one of them is from our guys from Blender explaining our society in general and what we've been taught and what we're supposed to believe, what we've been taught from our universities and our media and you name it. And so without further ado, here they are.
Fashionable for academics and activists to romanticize decolonization and for politicians to tell you to respect every culture but be ashamed of your own. Universities now celebrate indigenous wisdom as morally superior, and activists insist that modern civilization, built on science, merit, and progress, is the source of humanity's corruption. But this obsession with simpler, more authentic cultures isn't really about admiration, it's about escape. Civilization demands too much from the modern person: discipline, effort, and personal responsibility. It expects people to think critically, restrain impulses, and live by higher standards. That's a heavy weight to carry, so instead of rising to meet it, many look for an easier way out. They glorify less developed societies as pure and communal, imagining them as utopias unburdened by greed, guilt, or competition. But the picture they paint isn't based on history, it's based on fantasy. Life in so-called primitive societies was not peaceful or harmonious, it was brutal, superstitious, and often short. Disease, violence, and hierarchy were constant realities. The modern idealist, safely sheltered by the systems they claim to despise, projects their own frustrations onto a false image of the past. They're not comparing truth to truth, they're comparing a distorted present to a fictional paradise. This fantasy allows them to reject the moral and intellectual responsibilities of modern life while feeling morally superior for doing so. It's not love for indigenous cultures, it's self-loathing disguised as compassion. The irony is that the people who despise civilization rely on it completely. The freedom, safety, and prosperity that make their activism possible are products of the very system they condemn. What's really being rejected isn't Western values, it's maturity itself. It's the uncomfortable weight of having to uphold and improve what generations before us built. Civilization is demanding, yes, but that's what makes it valuable. The longing to escape isn't wisdom or enlightenment, it's regression. The wish to return to childhood where the world felt simple because someone else bore the responsibility. It's become fashionable for academics and activists to romanticize decolonization and for politicians to tell you to respect every culture but be ashamed of your own.
Right? So I'm sure I've experienced that where I know that's going. I was in university just a few short years ago, and I was made to feel like I was the enemy of the world, just because of the color of my skin, the language I spoke, the gender I was, my background. Everything. I should have been so ashamed of who I was right to the core. And then just because I already knew these things anyways, it wasn't like I came upon them, and I love indigenous culture just as much as the next person, probably more. I understand more of indigenous culture than your regular average bear. I'm a I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We have a book of scripture that comes from the indigenous ancestors where Christ visited the Americas and they wrote down what he said in his visit. And a lot of the culture they have basically stems from that. They're not even aware of it. And so I have every ounce of respect for our indigenous brothers and sisters, more than you know. But our society has taken it and tainted it and reversed it upside down, that this particular version of their culture that we have today, which is evolved, and the one that we have today, which there's a lot of great elements of it, but that's morally higher than anyone else, and that's for some reason needs to be respected, and more people are going back to that. And that's all fine and dandy, but when you look at the reality of the indigenous history, they warred together. They warred with each other before white man came on this continent. Indigenous cultures wiped out whole other indigenous cultures on the face of this land for many years. They are human beings, and so they are not morally higher than anyone else. Where I come to believe there's a more morally higher ground is when you study the very teachings of Jesus himself, right? How could we end up with a society that's gotten as bad as it's gotten if you actually listened to, followed, looked at, internalized the teachings that he has? A lot of people have opinions of him, and they don't or haven't really studied his own words. They take other people's interpretations, other people's actions after they've interpreted them, and put them on him wrongfully. If you actually just, something to do today, Beatitudes. Google the Beatitudes. That's the Sermon on the Mount by Jesus Christ on the Mount. He's, didn't have microphones back then, so he had to find a good place where he could project his voice to the people listening. And imagine if everybody in the world lived those principles. Then ask yourself, how would there be corruption in government? How would there be people? There wouldn't be need for police. Just look at the kind of utopian society that would come from following that, let alone all the stuff we've been fed of this utopian society that the government and academia has been trying to feed us, and science and all these things for, the secular idea of utopia, or even all these other cultures going back to childhood, as Blender kind of put it, going back to more simpler ways. You can go back to whatever way you want if you looked at the Beatitudes and just imagine a culture following those principles. What problems could you actually have if everybody followed them? And that was the main fundamental principles you built a society on, were those principles, which is the society we just are now saying goodbye to, by the way. We did build a society with imperfect people, but then things creep in little by little afterwards. Our society was built on those principles, and that's why our society thrived for so many years. That's my own belief on that. But anyways, and again, everyone has their own beliefs, and that's the great thing about the ideas that were put forward by Jesus, and the ideas that were put forth in the Old Testament, which also gets a bad rap by its interpretations of principles to live your life by. Now, again, I didn't have much time to just kind of build on what I've been saying, but just so if I can just say a little homework for everyone today, look up the Beatitudes. If you haven't visited them for a while, or you never have, it's the first time you've ever looked them up, just kind of see what you think. What do you think? And that's all the time we got for the show today. Much appreciated. Remember to have a good weekend. Stay aware, like, share, take care, all that stuff. We'll be back on the same platforms, the same times, God willing, on Monday. And stay tuned now for your shot daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and God bless. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.